Hello everyone. I have made contact with SABC. The CEO of SABC rightfully showed us that we are wrong in mentioning SABC in our papers and that they have nothing to do with that vile podcast. And they don't work with them. They are not on SABC platforms. So let me apologize to SABC for mistakenly thinking they are part of it. I've also spoken to MultiChoice because this was aired on the 25th of July on the platforms. MultiChoice is not renewing their association with this podcast, and they are disgusted with what they have seen. These people are apparently on YouTube. So what we are doing now, we are moving to YouTube and TikTok. There should be no place to hide for racist. If you are white racist, black racist, colored racist, a racist remains a racist. And in South Africa, there will be no place for racism. They can laugh about it, but we know hulle het op die verkeerde hond se stert getrap. For too long, the people were comfortable to show racism towards this community. This is where we draw the line. We will destroy them if we let them get away with it. They must know. They must grow up knowing racism is wrong. Thank you. TikTok, YouTube, you next.
Gayton McKenzie backtracks after wrongly accusing the SABC of platforming a controversial podcast. The Open Chats podcast is the show in question, and it turns out it's got nothing to do with the SABC. Let's unpack this political media mess. It all began when a clip from the Open Chats podcast went viral, where the hosts made derogatory and offensive comments about the colored community. The reaction was swift and furious, led by Patriotic Alliance leader Gayton McKenzie. McKenzie called out the show for what he described as pure racism and threatened legal action. But he went one step further, accusing the SABC of giving this podcast a platform. There's just one problem with that. It wasn't true. Shortly after making his claim, McKenzie issued a public retraction, admitting that the Open Chats podcast is not affiliated with the SABC. Quote, "I want to correct my earlier statement. The podcast in question is not on SABC platforms, but is actually hosted on DSTV and YouTube." This retraction is significant. The SABC, as a state-owned broadcaster, has strict editorial policies and would likely face major scrutiny if it aired such content. In South African politics, words carry weight, especially when aimed at public institutions like the SABC. McKenzie's mistake could have fueled unnecessary distrust in the public broadcaster, especially among communities already questioning media bias. Fortunately, McKenzie corrected the record quickly, but it raises an important issue: accountability in the age of viral outrage. And let's be real, in the current climate, dragging the wrong institution can have serious legal and reputational consequences. With the SABC out of the picture, the focus returns to the Open Chats podcast itself, hosted on DSTV and YouTube. Civil society groups like Cape Forum have also condemned the remarks and say they'll be approaching the Human Rights Commission. So while McKenzie got the platform wrong, his outrage wasn't misplaced. The content itself remains deeply offensive, and now the legal spotlight is squarely on the podcast and its creators. In politics and media, credibility is everything. McKenzie's quick retraction was the right move, but it's a reminder. Before pointing fingers, double-check who you're pointing at. The platform matters, but so does the message. And in this case, the message from the Open Chats podcast may have crossed a legal line. What's your take? Mistake or media misfire? Let us know below. This is SA Political Lens, cutting through the noise.